Reporter Martin Evans after people living in vans there were told not to talk to their neighbours as part of a series of measures issued at the county court following an application by Bristol City Council. I speak to Martin Cow, who lives in a van and runs the Facebook page Houseless Not Homeless. Morning, Martin.
Good morning, James.
What do you make of this new rule?
Well, what is it? Is it a rule? Is it an injunction? Does it come with underneath law? Is it an act? It's very vague on what this is from what I can see.
And however you would describe it in sort of legal terms, the principle behind it, which is that people who live in these vans in Greenbank should not make contact by whatever means with people living in the houses there. What's your reaction to that?
Well, it's addressed to persons unknown, so unknown persons are not allowed to speak to the residents of Greenbank View.
Do you think it's unfair?
Of course it's unfair. I mean, does this just stay for the same area? What happens if they meet someone from that local area in the supermarket? Do they still ignore them? Do they still not say please and thank you?
I suppose the issue that the City Council is trying to deal with here is they say they've had a rise in the number of complaints, including things like blocked pavements, fires, littering, human waste disposal. Surely the council needs to do something to try and address those issues.
Amenities, put things in place that can make this better. This is what happens in Europe. This is why I left the UK.
So you're now living in a van in Portugal, I believe. Why did why did you decide to move from the UK?
Well, over a decade of living on wheels, I slowly but surely seen that more restrictions and changes were coming in across the whole of the UK, not just Bristol in general.
And why do you enjoy, if that's the right word, living in a van, Martin?
Many, many reasons. Mental health is up on the best. Not being tied to one geographical location. Meeting people from diverse communities all across the world. This is something that everyone should strive to do, really, and not be stuck to the same mundane routine day in, day out.
Because a lot of people would think, well, I couldn't think of anything worse than living in a caravan.
They need to come and spend a weekend with me.
And what about the issue? A lot of people say, well, hang on a minute, you don't pay council tax, you're often parked illegally or in an area where parking is limited already, that it becomes a nuisance.
When there's a nuisance, when there is so many vehicles parked up in one place, then I do understand that. I understand that there can be a lot of stress that comes from local residents. But unfortunately, there is nowhere for these people to go.
Well, you say that, but by the sounds of it, and I don't want to misrepresent what you're saying, Martin, by the sounds of it, you live in a van out of choice. And Bongo, who we heard from earlier, also living in a van, she's one of the people in Greenbank, she's living in a van by choice. So you say they've got nowhere else to go. By the sounds of it, there are other options in terms of housing. It's just they choose to live in a van.
Housing, but I have to stop you there. You're twisting words. We don't want housing. What we want is to live freely on our wheels and not be stuck to one geographical location.
Which is fair enough, but everyone has to follow certain rules, don't they? If you live in a house, you've got to pay council tax. Do you think people who live in vans should pay council tax?
They do pay. They pay road tax.
They don't pay council tax, though, do they?
No, but they still buy groceries from the supermarket. They put fuel in their vehicles.
Yeah, how do you think, Martin, we can move to a situation where the people who are living in vans can get on better with their neighbours? Because, I mean, it was interesting hearing from people there in Greenbank and a lot of them saying, actually, they're very friendly, they've got no issues, and yet other people saying, actually, there are problems. And we've seen the rise in the number of complaints to Bristol City Council. What needs to be done to create a bit more harmony between the two groups?
Well, we stopped putting attention towards it for the first time because that just makes separation and divide, and that just makes the situation even harder for both parties. But I really believe that the BCC should put more facilities in place for people that want to live alternatively. Not everyone wants to live in bricks and mortar. We have all the services all the way down the canals for the narrowboats, and there isn't that many facilities other than campsites that are far too expensive, more expensive than paying rent for vehicle dwellers.
So maybe more affordable campsites?
I wouldn't say campsites, but at least airs like we have over in Europe.
Martin, thank you. Really appreciate your time. Martin Cow there, who lives in a van and runs the Facebook page Houseless Not Homeless. People living in caravans in Greenbank in Bristol have been told they can no longer contact other local residents, either directly or indirectly by whatever means. Bristol City Council says it's taken action after the encampment got bigger, leading to a rise in the number of complaints, including issues with blocked pavements, fires, littering and human waste disposal.
James Hansen.